Hello and welcome to another episode of Walk the Talk, a series of conversations with leaders who actually walk their talk. Please join me to welcome today our special guest, Mr. Chetan Vohra. Chetan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Neena. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting our invite. Chetan believes in the celebration of the process of thinking. He is author, director, and producer. He has been fortunate enough to pursue visual art and design at Vancouver Film School, Canada, following which he studied cinematography at Whistling Woods International Film School, Mumbai. So proud to have you here, Chetan.
Thank you.
And Chetan is actually the author of a series of books named Sochu. Sochu is a children's-based book with children's content and amazing ideas over there for parents, educators, and children to be involved and engaged. And I will not go beyond that because I have to give the opportunity to the author to speak about what he has created. And it embodies actually 21st century skills. And Chetan believes that the Sochu books sparks the imagination of children. And he also believes that the books are chaplain-esque. Now, this was the word which I stumbled upon while reading about you, Chetan. And let me begin the conversation with this word itself, chaplain-esque. So, how is Sochu chaplain-esque?
So, since I come from this whole film background, I used to watch a lot of Charlie Chaplin movies. And what I found amusing about his films was that anybody can watch his films. Even if you don't understand a language, doesn't matter, you can watch his film. Even if you don't completely get into the depths of the story, you can still watch his film and still enjoy it. So when we started making Sochu, we kind of stumbled upon this idea that maybe Sochu can be like a Chaplin film, where if you want to get into the depths of the story, there's a lot of philosophy and a lot of deep meaning in the stories as well. But let's say you don't want to. Let's say you just want a light-hearted entertainment. You can still watch Sochu and just have fun, even if you don't go into the depths of the story. But there is that underlying meaning which is subtly weaved into the story as well. So that's why that's what I like about Chaplin's films, and that's why we thought of this idea that Sochu can be Chaplin-esque.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And forgive me if I want to confess one thing over here is that, in my thoughts before this conversation, I have been constantly thinking you as author, Chetan Vohra. And, I don't know whether it is in the subconscious mind, but I have been thinking you as Sochu. So are you the Sochu books?
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I know one thing, that a lot of the content that I write, it comes from our lives itself. Even though we might want to not accept it, we might want to say, no, we created this. I think we're heavily influenced by our own experiences and lives. And so somewhere out there, I'm sure that the thought of a child who thinks a lot might have come from my life, or maybe kids around me as well. Because I know that all of my friends are also Sochus.
And thank you for such a candid share. Thank you, Chetan.
And another interesting thing that I tell children generally is that all these characters are within you. Like, sometimes you're a Sochu and sometimes you're a Raju, you like to joke around. And sometimes you're a Manju and sometimes you're an Anju. So all the characters that are in the book are somewhere inside all of us.
And Chetan, you have a brilliant creative team. support you, to guide you. So how did you build on that? Since you're saying
Uh,
that, they are also so choose.
yeah. I'm very lucky because the two people that wrote Sochu with me are two of my closest friends, Vilas Algude and Deven Gandhi. And Deven runs a factory with his father, and he always wanted to write, but he never got to it. And Vilas, his father is a politician, and Vilas also always wanted to make films, but he never really got down to it. So when I got this idea that I want to make something for children that's wholesome, these are the two guys I called, and I told them, hey, you know what? I'm going to write this. Do you guys want to write it with me? And they were on. They were on it. So we met every evening for a year from 7 p.m. to around 1 or 2 a.m. And we wrote 26 stories. And that has become the base of whatever we're
Wow,
doing right now. So
brilliant.
first two was Deven and Vilas, and then as I went on, I think the idea and the concept itself excited people so much that whenever I met somebody, another friend of mine who's doing the music for us for the TV series, his name is Abhinav Verma. So as soon as I told him the concept, he was like, "Yes, you let me know what you need from me." I had one of my other friends, Umesh Sutar. He did the initial animation bits, so again, the same thing with him. As soon as he heard the concept, he was like, "Yes, you just tell me what you need from me. I'm there."
And what brilliant stuff you all have come up with. I mean, the entire set. And it's not just, I believe, one book, it's the experience of the entire set which makes it wholesome that you're saying about.
Yeah, so when you look at the individual books, this is why specifically we want to sell the whole set together. Is because when you read the individual book, it becomes about that one thought, right? It's about that one topic. But when you experience all 12 Sochu books together, that we believe does something to us. That whole experience of all 12 Sochu books, it goes beyond that single topic, and it makes you come up with this or feel that thinking itself can be fun. Generally because of school and all of that, we associate thinking with acha. So only intelligent people think, or somebody who's studious is a thinker. But that's not true. We are all thinkers, and you don't have to be extremely intelligent to be able to be a good thinker. To be a good thinker is just somebody who's curious and who's willing to explore different ideas. So that's what we want to bring about with the whole set, is that thinking is a fun thing to do.
Yeah, true, true. And, we have been brought up like we, as in me, you are much younger, okay? So I belong to a generation where we've been brought up with books with a lot of moral stories, and you got to do this and you got to do that. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do this. And so, are we now into a generation where we need to redesign and rethink the way we narrate stories to children?
I believe so. I believe that the children of today are very different from children 20 years ago. Like a 4-year-old today is so different than a 4-year-old 20 years ago. While they're very similar in some sense, because they're children as well and we're human beings, but we are exposed to so many different things as of today. Yeah? And I've again, like, I've been very lucky that I stumbled upon something called experiential education about 4 years ago, and the methodologies that they use in experiential education, I think they're wonderful. A lot of the tweaks that we made in Sochu over the last 3-4 years have been inspired by experiential methodologies. The basic idea of experiential education is that instead of us telling children what to do, we need to create experiences through which they will learn by themselves. Because children are inquisitive, children are very curious, they're up for anything. Um, if we can just provide an experience that stimulates their mind, they will find things that work for them. They will discover new things that we might never even think of telling them. So I'm very fascinated by experiential education, and I've been doing this for 4 years now. In fact, even the activities at the back of each book that we provided are inspired from experiential education. And we hope that through these activities, you can take the meanings of these stories and translate them into your own lives.
Absolutely. So, how does Sochu books impact the thinking of children? So, when you talk about 21st century skills and when you talk about experiential education, all this is being mentioned in the national education policy, which has been implemented by the government, CBSE also. So, how does your set of books impact the thinking of the children, or even parents, adults, like anyone who comes across this set? It's not, I mean, how can you base a set of books with an age? I think it's relevant for all of us, and it
Yes.
sets us thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
If
is
you're
that?
open to it, Sochu works for everyone.
So how
So,
impacts?
so to answer your question, my belief is that what we're doing with Sochu is, in very simple terms, I can put this across. Yeah, and of course it's funny and it's a little bit slapstick and it's all of that, but that's the language of a child who lives in today's world, right? And we need to be able to talk to them in their language. We need to make something exciting for them. That's when they're going to really catch on to it. So that is one aspect of Sochu, which is the entertainment aspect. In fact, we have a lot of parents who message us that their kids, even though both parents are avid readers, their kids never took up to reading. But when they bought Sochu books, they didn't even have to tell their kids to read. They just put the box there on the shelf and their kids automatically started reading it. I believe that this is happening because we come from this whole entertainment background. Because reading a Sochu book is almost like watching a cartoon.
True,
So
true.
that is one aspect of Sochu, is that it can grab children's attention, children of today who are exposed to so many things every day, right? There's so much entertainment all around them. So this is something that where we believe that we're talking in a language that appeals to children. So I believe that there's two aspects to this. One is the language that we're speaking. I believe that because we come from this whole entertainment background, filmmaking background, um, the experience of reading a Sochu book is almost like watching a cartoon. And that is, it talks the language of children of today because they're exposed to so much content all the time, that maybe something that is not as engaging, they might just not go for it. So that's that first bit of being able to have an impact at all, is to be able to talk in a language that appeals to children of today. In fact, there's one of these filmmakers, one of my favorite ones. His name is Hayao Miyazaki, and one of his ideas about filmmaking was that the beginning of the film should be so low that it's very warm and it invites everyone in. And then through the journey of the film, you can end on a high. So he always believed that you can't make a film which is just always on the high. You've got to begin low so that you bring everyone in. And somehow with Sochu, all of these thoughts and ideas that have impacted me in my life, we've subconsciously weaved them into Sochu as well. So I get calls from parents where their children have never read a book before, even though the parents are avid readers. But as soon as they saw Sochu books, they picked it up, and their parents didn't have to force them to read. Also, they enjoyed reading it. So maybe we think that maybe Sochu can be that first book that you read because it's easy, it's fun, um, but there's still meaning in it. And the second aspect of this about how it actually helps children think. Now that we're talking their language, we've got their attention. Now, in a very simple way, what we've done with Sochu is that we take a certain thought, and because Sochu is 7 years old, he doesn't know the meaning of this thought. So, through the journey of the episode, he goes around exploring this idea and makes up his own meaning for it. And over time, his friends also join in and they all make their own meanings out of these thoughts. And of course, the new meaning that they make is also intriguing for an adult. It's a different way of looking at things. So there's a lot of these ideas about thinking about by one of the most famous authors is Edward de Bono, and he's written this book about lateral thinking. So what I understand of it, what little I understand of it, is that if we can think beyond the boundaries that we have today, that's when we'll come up with something new. But if we think only within the boundaries we have today, then we'll only create something that already exists. So, in a way, in a very subtle way, that's what we're trying to do with Sochu. We're putting thoughts out there, but we're making new meanings of those thoughts. And we're hopefully inculcating that habit and that idea in the children as well. So they'll do this by themselves later.
That's fantastic.
And I also want to mention just, this whole experience education that I've been doing over the last 4 years has had a big impact on how we've molded Sochu over the last 3 or 4 years. Because we began making Sochu way before I got into experiential ed. But through experiential ed, there's a lot of methodologies that they use about not giving out the answer, just about the way you can communicate something, about being non-judgmental, and all of these things. We've tried to subconsciously inculcate all these ideas in Sochu as well. And I'm sure that as we go ahead, we'll refine it even more and it'll come better and more better.
Definitely, definitely. My best wishes are always with you. So are the viewers' best wishes. And Chetan, most of the time what happens is in a classroom situation or any environment where the children are exposed to maybe some books or a concept. So always there is a section of people who feel that education and entertainment have to be two separate things. They don't have to be combined because that diverts their focus. They don't learn anything. Education is not joker business. They add all these things to maybe a fruitful a class where actually the child is maybe learning through drama, learning through songs. So what do you have to say to people who have this kind of thinking that it has to be focused in one direction?
So one of the biggest ideas of experiential education is that children learn through play. That's where all the learning happens. I believe that, today children are exposed to so much entertainment, whether you like it or not. You are not going to let go of your phones, right? And then that means your child is around a phone all the time. And then most likely they're going to be on the phone and consume the kind of entertainment that exists there. So if we look at when I was a kid, we consume way less entertainment than a child today consumes. And I'm sure that my parents consume way lesser than we consumed. So the world is different today. A child today is going to learn from entertainment. Now it's up to us. If we can make that entertainment nutritious and wholesome, then they might learn nicer things. But if we continue the same kind of entertainment that we used to have back in the days, where you saw maybe one show in a day, maybe that 1 half hour or 1 hour of entertainment was consumed, in that show, no matter what they did, it was fine because that was a very small percentage of the time that the child spent. But if you look at today, the amount of time children are spending consuming entertainment, I think it's very important to make sure that our entertainment is wholesome and nutritious and they're taking something away from it.
I really like that word, wholesome, nutritious, and children need to take away something from there. And of course, it has to be meaningful and engaging. Entertainment and education, if they're combined in such a way that it benefits children mentally, physically, spiritually, and what have you. And then I think we will see visible results. Amazing. Yes.
For sure. And I think it's both, right? We feel like this is entertainment and this is education. I feel both need to come a little bit together, a little bit closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me introduce to the viewers this entire set of Sochu books. Here we have 12 editions. And Chetan, I'm going to ask you how are and what makes the Sochu books so unique? What is the unique? Please share the uniqueness of the Sochu books.
There's, there's, so again, because we come from two different worlds, because I come from filmmaking and entertainment and all of that. So there's one comparison that I make to the entertainment world and how Socho is different compared to that. Um, if a few years ago, I was hanging out with my nephew, and I've written a blog about this as well. When I started watching all the content that he was watching, I was actually troubled because I didn't think there was anything that was worth taking away from that. And we make excuses for our entertainment nowadays because we say कि नहीं नहीं वो पूरा दिन स्कूल में रहता है तो this is his me time, this is he should just enjoy, do whatever he wants in this 1 hour that he's watching cartoons. But the struggle for me is that why does it have to be violent, and why does it have to have all these negative things, like and I try not to be judgmental about this as well, but it's hard because they bring out comedy from things like showing other people down, like teasing someone else. And what this does, while maybe they don't intend to do it in that way, they don't mean any harm to the children, of course, right? The makers of this. But what happens is that a child sees all of this, and for the child, it's like, oh, this is how I must behave in the world, because that's what they're being shown, right? So they learn from us. And if this is the kind of cartoons that we put out there over and over again, then what happens is they believe that, this is how I must behave in the world. And I have a problem with that.
I have a problem
um,
with that. And it's not that, immediately the child is going to imbibe or act like that. But when the the material that he watches online is
yeah.
consistent in the things that you have
Yes.
said, somewhere it settles in the subconscious mind. That's what I believe. And it comes out through actions or words in another situation. And
And
we,
even,
as
there's subconsciously, there's a lot of sexism in it. There's a lot of, a lot of judgment in it, which what it's sad that a 3-year-old is learning all of that from these cartoons. I'm 100% sure that that's not the intention of the makers of these cartoons, because I even know these people, right? And I know that they're not bad people. They're good people. They're not evil, they don't intend to do this, but it's just that's how it's been, and now that's just how the machine is rolling. So somebody needs to come and shake this machine and maybe just take it a little bit to in a different direction, in a better direction
kudos to you and your team for being that
Thanks.
somebody.
uh, but yeah, so I really hope and I believe in this, and we'll keep working on this. Like I say, that we've got to make Sochu a commercially viable entity, because uh, only that's when everything else can change as well. Even though that's not our intention, if we can get an entity that is commercially viable, that people like, and it's making money and all of that as well, that's when others might find value. Okay, hey, we can make something that doesn't have violence, that doesn't have all the slapstickness to it, that is not showing others down and teasing people, and still make money. So hopefully, if we manage to do this well, then other people might take on to it as well.
That would be great. And in your books, you have this, collective thought of the world. It's actually a character in Sochu's mind. So is it
Yes.
hacking the mind in some way? How did you
So,
come up with character?
so the idea of the collective thought of the world comes from a very highly spiritual concept that we are all one, and it's our ego that separates us from each other. When you look at us as one entity, that means that all the knowledge that exists in the world, you have access to it. So it's a very, very high spiritual philosophy. I find it exciting and fascinating. It's like that thing, whether do you believe in God or not. I'm like, I wish there is a God. I hope there is a God. Of course, all our definitions of God might be different than each other's, but this whole idea of the collective thought of the world as well is one of those ideas for me, where I I hope that that is how the world is, that we're all actually one. We're all connected in a way that we might not understand today. And yeah, maybe a few centuries later, we'll become more evolved than we are today, and we'll come to realize that, hey, wait, that was true. But the idea comes from the spiritual thought that we're all one, which means that we all have access to everything that is there in the world.
I suppose that's the essence of Sochu books, that you have brought such high thinking. You've made it you've simplified it. You have simplified the complicated things of the world. You have taken up topics like, where is God, who is God. You have taken up topics on change, choices. I mean, these are the most relevant questions and the topics of the present day, and very interesting, I must say. So another thing that concerns me,
you can tell that we've had a lot of fun making the books as well.
yeah, I can see it very clearly through the books. So another thing that concerns me is about reading. It's a constant decline among our children. Even I have so many adults coming up to me and saying that, they find reading to be really tough. They cannot concentrate more than 1 page or 2 page, maximum 1 chapter. That's it. And then they give up on reading the entire book. So how do you think that if a parent or a school or any institute buys into Sochu books, can these inspire children or adults to read?
Yes, I would have said that I believe that it does, but we've had so many calls from parents telling us about how their children have started reading because of Sochu. So today I will say that I know that this happens with children. Sochu somehow has been able to appeal to children of today, and I believe there's a slightly non-preachy kind of aspect to it, even though we are still putting thoughts out there. We are still putting philosophies and theories that we believe in out there through our books. But it's been done in a way that, like I said, like it's like that experiential education thing. It's like you read the Sochu book, it gives you an experience, and then you're free to make your own conclusions of it, even though we've given a little bit of what we think. But it's not like, hey, like you said earlier, it's not like, hey, do this, don't do that. Somehow over time, how we started writing our stories, the flow came in a way that it just became like, hey, here's what happened with these kids, and it was fun and it's interesting, and you're just there to experience what happened with them, and somehow that experience remains with you and it lingers on inside your mind. And I think that's what happens with Sochu stories. It doesn't leave you in a place, oh, no, I read from Sochu that you must do this and not do that. In fact, it's very interesting. I think if you take a whole bunch of kids and you let them read Sochu books and you ask them what they got from it, I think they'll have a conversation with you. I don't think they'll have that one thing that they took out.
Yeah, and that's what sets the tone. I think every Sochu book ends with a question, so that adds more curiosity in the children. So that's brilliant.
This is we internally debated on this point for a very, very long time. Even while the books were being finalized and all that, we were still debating whether to give the answer in the end or not, because we came from this point where we were like, no, we must, because like otherwise they'll feel like it ended abruptly or something, right? And then the other thought was that, but listen, our whole idea is, okay, we want to spark that imagination or the thinking process in the child. So if we give away the answer directly, then that
That's it then.
imagination stops there.
Yeah.
It's over. So,
True.
and we still, even after having both of these, both points were valid enough that we kept debating on this for a very long time within the three of us, within Vilas, Devin, and me. But in the end, we chose this because even this whole idea of experiential led kind of supported that idea for us. Okay, maybe let's not give away the answer. So we had moments where अच्छा dialogue में थोड़ा सा निकलता है, but we're not like telling you clear cut. So we found that way of doing it.
So can we expect another series of Sochu coming up? Book series,
Yeah,
and you're also working on a TV series too, isn't it? Please tell us about that
yes.
too.
So Sochu actually started as a TV series, but when we went and pitched it to channels, I guess they were not ready to see the value in it, or maybe they didn't see the value in it. And hopefully now that the books are doing so well, they might see the value in it. So we're working on the pilot episode right now. In fact, I'm at the animator's office right now, working on the final changes. Um, Once the final pilot episode is ready, we'll go and pitch it once more to all the channels. And I'm actually confident this time that one of the channels will take it on. And once they do give us a go ahead, then it takes another 18 months at least for the series to come out. But for the book series, we are working on the second set of Sochu books. It's going to be a little bit different because, of course, it's going to be.
That's really exciting.
It's going to be a lot very similar to the first one as well, but there's going to be some aspects which are very different. It's going to be based on feelings and emotions and how to deal with them. One of the most inspiring videos I had watched was this video of Fred Rogers. He used to make this show about his neighborhood, and it was a big hit back in his days. But the government was going to cut the funding for these shows. And this video is a video in the courtroom with Mr. Rogers pitching to the judge about why they should let him continue making his show and why they should not cut his budget down. And I'll send you that video as well. It is just, it'll give you goosebumps.
Please do.
One of
Please
the
do.
So one of the lines that stuck with me from there was that if we can help children understand their feelings and emotions and how to deal with them, we will have done a great service to children. And that's kind of the inspiration for the second set, which is going to be based on feelings and emotions. And through the same Sochu idea and concept, but instead of thinking, we're now going to talk about our feelings.
And this is a very phenomenal point of dealing with children's emotions and feelings. Children, they don't understand how to express their emotion. Most of the time, they don't express it. And if they are unhappy inside or sad or something is bothering them, they'll come up with the most challenging behaviors. And if there is a book to guide them and help them out, it would be brilliant. So looking forward to the next series too. Thank you, Chetan, for this wonderful time that I had with you during this conversation. I learned a lot, and I am sure most of our viewers also have enjoyed listening to you and your ideas. And again, here is Sochu for everyone. And we can share, read together, and enjoy and have fun, because these books are celebrating the process of thinking. They are not just, books which have a story or a moral. No, they are books intended to inspire children to read, get them thinking, and a lot of activities towards the end of the book will also help them increase their vocabulary, help them read better. Lots of things are there. Thank you, Chetan, for this
Thank you so
amazing
much.
time.
Thank you. Thank you. I had fun as well, and I really like your questions. They really helped me express myself. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chetan. And I will see you all next time with another episode on Walk the Talk. Bye bye. Bye bye, Chetan.
Bye. See you.